Jim Klauck on the Phenomenal Business Growth Podcast with Jeff Buck. Hello, Jeff. How are you?
Good, Jim. How you doing today?
I'm phenomenal, of course, or
That's
better than
great to hear.
phenomenal.
Better than phenomenal. That's right.
Yeah, better than phenomenal. So it's great to have you here on the podcast. You had told me before we started that you've never done one before. Is that true?
Nope, this is my first time. Yeah, I mean, I've watched and listened to so many, but I'm excited to be doing it. To be honest with you, it's one of those things where it's the new medium, right? So we can get so much great information out there, and I hope I can provide a little bit for somebody.
Well, absolutely. So you've been in the installation business now for about 9 years, right? 9 years.
Yeah.
Um, I love that business. I have a lot of experience in that business from the sales and marketing side of it. Why did you decide to get into that business?
Well, that's a great question. It kind of found me,
Mm.
to be honest. I was in the utility industry for 17 years with the same company, and we had a mutual parting of ways, and I was kind of, had a nice severance, so I was just kind of decompressing from a pretty stressful career. And a friend of mine contacted me, and he was doing presentations for a company, a specific company. And he said, "Hey, I think you'd be good at this." And I'm like, "I don't want to do sales. I don't want to do sales. I don't want to do
Mm.
sales," because I didn't understand sales. Honestly thought sales was, some creepy used car guy, right? I didn't understand the world really revolves on people educating others. And that's what sales was really all about. So he challenged me. He said, "Well, is it going to hurt you to go sit through a free steak dinner and watch somebody do this and then kind of make your decision from that?" I went, and I was blown away by the product, blown away by the presentation, just how simple it was. And I'm like, I can do that. And that's really how I got started. So I started with a company, and I was their presenter. In my first year, I think I was working there 9 months, and in that 9 months, I was the number one presenter in the company, and we
Wow.
had the number one team in the company. So I kind of was a fish in water, and I'd found my calling. And believe it or not, I knew very little about insulation that I was talking about. I knew about what I was talking about, but I wasn't in houses. I wasn't in attics. I was just doing literally a presentation to educate folks, and it was a great presentation, so it was accurate. But that's how I got started. And the following year, I started my own company. Literally, I loved it so much. I'm like, I got to start my own business.
That's because you're an insulation genius, right?
I am now. Yeah, everybody here is an installation genius. We've got our junior geniuses, our installation geniuses, along with, which gets a little confusing with insulation geniuses when they say installation geniuses, but it helps keep the theme, consistent. Yeah.
That's a great brand name. How'd you come up with it?
It was a client. So we used to be Smart Home Ecotech. That was the name of our company.
Mhm.
And when you say smart home, you don't think insulation. You think about everything from Alexas and things like that, right?
Sure.
So the thing that I was in a house with somebody, and they said, I was going through everything with them after evaluating their home. And they're like, "You guys are like insulation geniuses. I've learned so much." And I was like, "That's a really great, I love that name." And I guess we kind of are, you have to be the expert in the industry, or at least in that person's home, you have to be the expert. So that's where it came from, but they don't get any royalties.
Yeah, well, I guess you could throw them a Starbucks gift card or something.
We did take care of her, but yeah,
Yeah,
that's it. It's a one and done.
yeah. In a moment, we're going to talk a little bit about phenomenal business coaching and your relationship with Howard Partridge, but I want to follow up on what you had just talked about being a genius in your field, honestly. Educating the customer on what you do to solve their problem is the best way to sell, isn't it?
Absolutely, 100%. Um, I think that I think what blew me away about insulation and the industry that I'm in is what I thought it was versus what it actually is. And insulation is not simply just trying to keep your heating bills down or your house more comfortable. It's not about that. It is about that. It has something to do with that. But at the end of the day, I didn't realize that poor insulation causes everything from, your shingles to deteriorate faster than they
Hmm.
could. That you'd have to replace your roof deck, so you go from a $10,000 roof or shingle replacement to suddenly a $25,000 roof replacement, and it happens like that. I didn't realize that the number one problem in homes these days uh, is the what's called indoor air pollution, according to the EPA. It's like the deadliest thing they call it the deadliest global risk. Those are kind of big words, right?
Wow.
With everything going on in our world. And the EPA says that. And what are they talking about? And they're talking about just all of we're in our houses all the time, and the air pollution in our homes is anywhere from 200% to 500% worse than what it is outside in a city. And people don't even know they're breathing that. And 30% of the air we breathe comes from the attic. I always tease people, how often do you like to go up into your attic to get a breath of fresh air? Never. Nobody wants to go up to their attic and breathe, let alone, take a nice deep breath.
Yeah.
So when I realized all the things that it affects, I realized that this was an industry that could really impact people's bills and their energy usage and carbon footprint, if that's something that's important to them, and lower the amount of energy their home uses, which lowers their bills. But that the end result ends up making people healthier and happier because their house is comfortable. And those are our tagline is, we help you make your home safe and comfy. That's it, because that's what our job is to do. And it's a easy motto for us.
Yeah, I've been working with insulation companies for years, and ventilation. Depending upon where you are in the country, ventilation, especially active ventilation, may be more important than others.
Yep.
But what's really, really great about what you do is you're solving, as far as I'm concerned, and you touched upon it, two key things. And it depends on the individual which one's more important.
Mm.
And that is saving money and being more comfortable in your home. And you can achieve both. Some people may say, um, I don't, care about spending an extra 30, 40, $50 a month on utility bills, but I want to be comfortable. Well, if we come in and we put more insulation in and we make sure the ventilation is good, you're going to be more comfortable and save money. And you're going to save also, like you said, the roof decking, the shingles. In certain parts of the country, there are utilities in the attic, like down south. There's water heaters and there's air conditioning systems and so forth, which is not necessarily the case up where you live. But I know a lot of people in other parts of the country have things in the attic that they need to take care of. And that can be a real hot box in the summertime.
Yeah, 100%. And if you go up and look, like we deal with people's air handlers all the time and being in attics. And if you look at their insulation that is around those ducts, because it used to be when I was growing up, I'm a guy in my 50s, they always had these guys coming out with tin, and they were shaping everything, and it was it wasn't going anywhere. Nowadays, that's not what they use. They use these flex pipes, and these flex vents. And if you look at the insulation around those, there are anywhere from R6 to R8, which is nothing. Literally, like a coffee mug is higher at R13. So the heat that gets in there affects that, and so it's heating up the air inside the duct. So as soon as you turn your air on, you're actually blowing hot air in your house. You have to correct for that. So, we have some high level products that we just go ahead and wrap those, so that their R value suddenly jumps up to, our mid 30s higher, or higher, depending on what's going on in the attic. So yeah, I mean, it's, you get me started on attics, Jim. I'm going to keep talking.
I um I could talk all actually I have spoken all day about this because I have actually myself sold a lot of insulation and ventilation. I know this space very well. I spent a lot of time with home service professionals from the HVAC world, the plumbing world, insulation, foundation, roofing, you name it. But the one that I enjoy the most and have spent the most time with are attic, specifically attic insulation and ventilation. And I could write a book on it. As a matter of fact, I wrote a forward to a book about it. So I love it. All right, let's talk about Phenomenal business coaching and your relationship with Howard Partridge. I understand it's been about 14 months or so since you joined the inner circle.
It's almost exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, we started in January of 2023. In fact, I have my simple dimple business plan right here because I needed to update it for 2024. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's been 14 months, a really great 14 months.
How has phenomenal business coaching changed your business life and possibly your personal life so far?
I think two things. It's definitely changed. I mean, on a personal level, um, I cannot tell you how much less stress I have than I used to have. Because being in business for yourself is a very difficult job most days. And because you're always worried about everybody working for you, you're also worried about your clients. But then you want to make sure, as you know from your sales and marketing, you got to get people in the door to talk to people and be able to do homes to stay in business. And so I didn't have a lot of instruction the first 7 years of my business. So I was following a plan that had worked for others and in other areas of the country. And it did work for us, but it wasn't really a sustainable method. And we need to create something sustainable. So that's kind of what led us to Howard.
Yeah, a lot of people go it alone, whatever that is. Let's talk about sports. The best athletes at the top of their game all have coaches, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, or even golf. People say Tiger Woods has been so good for decades. He's blessed. He started young. We've all seen the video. I think he was like 3 years old or so. And he's worked really hard, but he has a lot of people that are really behind the scenes that we don't see on Saturday or Sunday when we watch him on TV, right? So, to be the best at what you do, you have to kind of put your pride aside and say, look, I'm really good at selling. I'm really good at attic insulation and ventilation. I'm great with people, but am I really that good? And even though the coach doesn't know exactly what I do every day in that attic space, that doesn't matter because they know the generalities and they can see me at a distance. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do 100%. And, it's one of the things that, a coach is there to, we all have blind spots.
Mm.
Everybody does. Um, and if you're blind to it, that means you can't see it. You literally don't see it.
Yeah.
You may know you have a little bit of a weakness somewhere, but I'm talking about actual areas that you have no idea what's going on and you don't realize it. And to get that perspective from not only somebody that can see it, but has helped people to create a process or a system to eliminate those from a business where they've seen all the blind spots. So they know within 5 minutes of a conversation what your blind spots probably are. That saves you years of frustration. It's going to give you tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars you are missing by not seeing it. And it gives you the reliability to know, hey, this is somebody that knows what they're talking about. This is somebody that is has not only seen it but overcome it, or has the best people in the world at correcting it.
Mm-hmm.
Like how this is Ellen Rohr, and I mean, if you and John Maxwell for leadership, I think they just finished something. These are the best people at what they do in the entire world, and you have access to them all through the phenomenal products coaching. I mean, this is just really an amazing blessing to have. So that athlete, they don't know where they can get better, or they don't maybe they have a system they're using. I think I remember you brought up Tiger Woods. I remember he had to completely change his golf swing.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine after everything he did, everything he won, he had to literally tear it all down and build back up so that he would be able to play for, into his years on the senior tour. And that's sometimes you have to do that. We're kind of in the middle of that with our company. And you have that guidance, that coach going, okay, we're going to tear it down, but we're going to build it back up the right way. I just can't, I don't even know how much that's worth, but I know what my health and mental state are worth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's millions. And to have Howard and his team work with us every single week, every day if we need to, I can't, it's just a really amazing system.
I totally agree. I met Howard 15 years ago. And to your point, not only does Howard coach and have great coaches on his team, but when you go to the conferences, you can meet great people like my friend Ellen Rohr and Michael Gerber. Um, Something that I mentioned on this podcast, and so if you've seen the podcast before, you might hear me say this, or you may have heard me say this before. About 15 years ago or so, Howard introduced me to a guy by the name of Zig Ziglar. And that was a big treat for me because he really was a mentor of mine. He didn't know it, but Zig used to talk to me through the cassette deck in my car for years before I quit my corporate job to become an entrepreneur. And that meant a lot to me. His son now, Tom Ziglar, on stage helps out. You're very familiar with the Ziglar company. And so it's a great team of coaches and professionals on and off stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it gives you access. I think it's Tony Robbins. When I first heard this, I was at one of his conferences, and he called about the power of proximity. That's what he calls it, power of proximity. And that is having access to people, being around people that that are of influence and that will affect you. You know, that you can't help but learn from those folks. And, you know, I've met Donald Miller now. I've met, you know, obviously Ellen a few times, and, you know, just all of the folks that I've been able to access through Howard. And Howard is like, he calls himself the chief reminding officer, but I'm going to tell you what, he's really the chief connection officer. The guy connects you with these folks. But I want to just circle back real quick, Jim. You said something that I didn't want to let slide, because it has been the thing that has been the best part of the phenomenal product coaching. Okay, the phenomenal coaching system, and that is the people that are also in this system. I've been able to connect with people around the entire United States in all kinds of industries, everything from real estate to people that are in the home service industry like myself. They are amazing people, and they're people that I can call, literally get on the phone and call right now, and they'll answer the phone because they know we know each other from that. And we know, hey, if someone is going to be reaching out from Phenomenal Products to us, then they need help, or they just need to ask a question. And that has been that is it just feels good to know people,
Yeah.
that are like you and are going through what you go through every day. So the community part of it is my absolutely, all the people I've met, everything I've learned, the community is still my favorite thing.
That's the biggest part of phenomenal business coaching. Used to be phenomenal products, so it's kind of hard for me to keep remembering phenomenal business coaching now. Howard made that change not long ago, and it is a community, and Howard is the head honcho. He's the leader, um, and the chief reminding officer. He he loves everybody. It's a family oriented group. It's very different. If you go to a conference, it's a very different conference experience because you may see entire families there. There could be three generations. There could be a 65-year-old entrepreneur father with his daughter and her son.
Yeah.
Interesting. But it all works, and so there's this culture. Getting back to the community and networking, I'm sure you've heard this before, Jeff. your network is your net worth.
Mm.
So if you live in a bubble
Mhm.
by yourself and you don't go out there and shake hands, kiss babies, meet people, you live this life, whether it's personal or business, in solitude, and it's not as enriching. Now, not everyone you meet and experience are going to be enriching, but you might say, well, it's nice to meet that person, but I don't think they're for me for whatever reason. But you're bound to grow personally and within your business as well. And that's one thing I really love about the inner circle with Howard Partridge.
Yeah. I mean, and it gets back to that blind spots. When if you're in that bubble you were just talking about, right? And you're just existing day to day, you're limited by your own mindset. You're limited by your own self-image. You're limited by those things that make you who you are. But maybe they aren't necessarily the better angels of your nature, right? And to be able to be around folks that are thinking big,
Mm-hmm.
not just in like just general terms. Literally, they've got a plan to get there, and to realize that you're surrounded by that. Now all of a sudden you can go, wait a minute, I can start to think differently about my potential. Why can't if so I'm sitting at a table with somebody that, they've taken their business from 150, $200,000 a year to $20 million a year, and they did it in a 5-year period. They're just a person like I am. There's got to be a way that happened. And if you're not around that person, you don't know there's another way.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you have a $20 million a year business. Think of the influence and change you can create to help the world, to help people, to be able to not only do that, but, secure your financial future for your family.
Oh
And
yeah.
there's a lot to that. And you don't have that unless you're around people that think like that.
Yeah. It's truly a unique experience. And I would recommend to anybody who has a small business to come and experience at least once a conference or part of the conference and get to meet the people. And of course, Howard, the other coaches, and the great speakers. I mean, it's such a great value. There's no other place you can go for the cost. So the value is huge to meet these people who are on stage, who have done things. These are people you've seen before at a distance, and you get to actually talk to them before and after, and sometimes during their talk. And it is truly a phenomenal experience. On that note, Jeff Buck, thank you so much for joining me today on the Phenomenal Business Growth Podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim. It was a great first podcast experience. Thank you, my friend.